Elise here from Miss McKenna's Life Leverage. So, with September coming to an end, I've been working on my spread for October. I've not gone for a huge amount of decoration this month. I've relied more on a colour scheme to bring this theme together. I wanted a very subtle Halloween edge to this month, so I've decided on using pumpkins. I'd never drawn pumpkins before and struggled to get them looking right to start with, but I found a nifty little way to stop them looking crappy, and I'll show you how I did that later on in the video. I've changed things up a little bit this month, so I've got a few new things to show you. So I'll be taking you through a new monthly layout that I'm trying. I've got 4 new weekly spreads to show you. I've got a very simple page to help me work more effectively through my tasks for the month, and I've got a brand new page inspired by a book that I've been reading to help me work through and overcome any overwhelming emotions so that I can experience more peace in the now. I've also got a few simple colouring tips to help you make your art pop. So first off, I'm trying this new monthly layout inspired by Bullet by R, and I'm loving the simplicity of this spread. I've got a space for tasks, goals, notes, the highlight of the month, and a space to note anything that might come up in the months to come. I've never tried the vertical monthly view before because I tend to need a bit more space to write my appointments or events in, but I'm hoping this will still be functional because I can add any extra information needed on the back of the Dutch door that I'll be making in a minute. You might have noticed that I'm using a new journal, and honestly, I'm not really loving this one. It's very pretty, but the pages are just way too thin for me. I'm not a fan of ghosting, and I'm getting a lot of that with these pages. It's also smaller than the previous journals I've been using, so things have been a little bit harder to space out on the page, but I'm planning on starting a new book next year, so I will stick with this one because it's only for a couple more months. So now I'm moving on to my first weekly spread, and while I set this one up, I wanted to talk to you briefly about the new pen I'm using. This is a 0.4mm fine liner by Arteza, and this one came in a set of 12. I'll leave a link in the description. So Arteza reached out to me and asked if I'd review this one for you, and I'm so pleased they did. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I'm really picky about my black pens. I like my black to come out really black, and I want something that's comfortable to write with, that gives nice, smooth, crisp lines, and this pen definitely fulfills these requirements. After I made this spread, I really wished I'd used a different brand of journal because I don't think that the thin pages do this pen justice. I've now tried it in my Dingbats and Le Mans journals, and it doesn't ghost at all. It doesn't bleed or smudge if I use my Tombows over the top of it, and I love that I can use it with a ruler. A lot of the time I don't use a ruler in my spreads because I find that the ink gets smeared as I'm moving the ruler across the page, and that drives me mad. But you'll see that this didn't happen once with this pen, so I'm super pleased with it. I actually loved it so much that I've just ordered their box of 72 coloured fine liners. 10 out of 10 Arteza, and thank you very much. This next spread was a super simple one, in theory. I wanted to try something really basic, so I decided to just have space for notes and tasks, and then the days of the week, but I was worried it would look a bit plain compared to the rest of the other spreads, and then I remembered a post I saw by Bellarica Designs, where she used dots instead of lines, and hers looked absolutely beautiful. She has some amazing pictures on Instagram, so I thought I'd try that. Well, number one, in hindsight, it would have looked much better if I'd used a ruler, but also, oh my god, this took ages. I've really sped this up, or it'd take up loads of the video. I had to take a break after the first page and fill in my mini monthly calendar because it was driving me mad. And then on the second page, I broke out the biscuits. I didn't realise how many I'd had until I watched this back. So let this be a lesson to you. Don't munch on cookies while you're engrossed in bullet journaling. The next spread was inspired by a post I saw by B. Bullet Journal. It was a light bulb themed spread and it was black and yellow, and it looked so striking that as soon as I saw it, I wanted to do something similar. So I've taken the main concept that they created, like the layout and the black borders, and I've adapted it for my black and orange pumpkin-y theme. So next I added the words "Give 'em pumpkin to talk about" and a black border where I'm going to draw in my giant pumpkin. And this is probably the best place to explain how I colour in my doodles so that they sort of pop off the page a little bit more. It's a really simple trick, but it's super effective. Once I've gone in with my pen and got most of the colours down that I want to get down with the highlights and the shading, I then go over, as you can see, with my orange pencil and I sort of blend out the colours. But most of all, where there's a harsh break, like the edge of the pumpkin or one of the creases in the pumpkin, I'm really emphasising the darkness of the colour, and it just sort of makes everything pop out of the page. And this works well with any sort of image, whether that's just a shape, a doodle, or a border or something like that. If you make the edges of the image darker and the centre of it slightly lighter, it just really gives it a nice effect every single time. And on to the final weekly spread. This is still fairly simple. It's quite boxy and structured, and again, there isn't a lot of decoration other than a little pumpkin and a quick quote, a little pumpkin and a quick quote. Try saying that quick. But I love the end result of this one. I think what makes it stand out is a combination of the bright contrasting colours and then the use of the drop shadows. Also, I found that if you want to make your quote stand out more, using a combination of block letters and cursive with faux calligraphy is a really great way to make it look more interesting and pleasing to the eye. I've been bullet journaling for almost a year, and I definitely have found that it's the small details that really bring a spread to life. Next, I have my habit and fibro tracker. I won't go into too much detail here as I keep it pretty much the same every month. I just have areas to track my sleep, how much pain I'm in, how tired I'm feeling, and I use the word yuck for tracking if I feel poorly or under the weather. And then on the top page, I have a space to track my mood and an area to track my habits. I find that having all this information in one place makes it easy to see if there are any correlations or patterns, and it's also much easier to fill out on a day-to-day basis. On this page, I've got another quick and simple spread to help me manage my tasks. I'm giving myself a space for any big tasks that I know will take longer than half an hour to complete, and then a space below for smaller tasks. The plan is to get as many small tasks done out of the way as early as possible in the day so that I can free up the rest of the day to complete the bigger ones. Having it laid out like this also means that I can look at any big tasks I have and then break them down into smaller, more manageable steps. This next spread might seem an odd one, and to be honest, I'm a little bit skeptical about it, but I'm reading a book called I Can Mend Your Broken Heart by Paul McKenna, and in it he talks about giving a difficult emotion an actual sort of personality. You identify the emotion, such as anxiety, give it a name like Mrs. Jitter or whatever seems appropriate. You acknowledge the ways in which this emotion serves you, such as protecting you from danger, and then you state to Mrs. Jitter why it's actually unhelpful and how you would like her to behave differently, such as don't remind me of things from the past that are over or of things that I have no control over. It all sounds a bit mad to me, but apparently it has been used with a lot of success, so I'm willing to give it a go and see if it works. The next pages are spaces to write a line a day, things like what I did and how I felt, and then a space to write something I'm grateful for every day. These aren't spreads that I often include in my journal, but I wanted to get back into the habit of writing and journaling, and I thought this would be a nice way to ease back into it. And of course, it's always very beneficial for your mind and soul to focus on the things that you appreciate in your life. The next spread I named A Safe Place, and it's just somewhere to write down any thoughts or emotions that I might not actually want to talk to anybody about, but things that I would like to get off my chest nonetheless. So I suppose it could be classed as quite a cathartic space in my journal. Here I'm drawing out another pumpkin to keep with the theme, and I'm doing it in a couple of stages. First I get my pencil and draw a sort of chunky oval shape as a guide. I then draw in the lines for the creases in the pumpkin, and then connect each line with a curved edge. And then again, once I've coloured in with my pens, I go back in with my pencil, blending out the colours and darkening the edges and the creases. I found that making sure I had an oval penciled in to start with as a guide made it much easier to get the pumpkin looking neat and more symmetrical. And then finally, I'm just going back through all the pages that I've created, and I'm cutting out tabs on the side for each one so that it's easier to get to the pages that I want. Now, I knew I was going to do this, but for some reason when I was actually planning out these pages, I didn't take into account that I needed that extra space to cut the tabs. So on my habit and fibro tracker, I sort of spend a little while trying to decide whether or not to cut it. And I think, no, I'll sod it, I'll just cut it. It doesn't matter too much. But I sort of fiddle around with it for a bit, but I'm not too worried about it. I know it's a habit and fibro tracker, but it's definitely something I'll keep doing in the future, I think, because it's kind of like a variation on a Dutch door, but it makes it easier to see which page you want to go to. And I wanted to edge it with washi tape, but I didn't have any of the right sort of colours I wanted. So I ended up sort of colouring it in with black and orange and then leaving one white so that I could see the different tabs. So that's pretty much the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'll leave a link to all the products and things that I'm using in the description, as well as where you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time.